Trail Channel. They are they're pioneering the relationship model that we're looking for trail towns across the state, and Diana is a catalyst for that. Um, I saw Lloyd Siegler on the list earlier. Lloyd's from the Dallas area. When we did the sweaty taste of the X-Tex in March of 25, Lloyd was out there along with me and a bunch of others that had escaped from our nursing homes for about a week. And we went out and slept with the crocodiles and dodged the fire ants and had a great time. And Lloyd was in the middle of it all. And so, Lloyd, good to hear, or good to see you're on the list. And then lastly, at least what I can have seen is Alice Bodner. Alice is from Far Out Maps. And, Far Out used to be Gut Hook for us old people. Now it's Far Out. And they have been an amazing partner with us in getting our mapping done and for the XTEX route. And we're glad that you're on the program here too today, Alice.
All right, so let's get started today. Of course, you know who we are, but let's just say it again to be obvious. We have Laura Wood, our executive director. We have Charlie Gandy, our founder and board chair, and myself, Melissa Balmer, the chief storytelling officer, and also known as Charlie's wife. So a little bit of overview on our agenda. This is a 30-minute facilitated conversation. To keep on time, because we know this is a lot of people's lunch break, we are going to take your questions, but only at the end. So what we'd love you to do is to put your questions either in the chat box or Laura will start calling on you. If you can raise your hand with the reaction button and we will get to everybody. We'll have 15 minutes for your live questions, and this is being recorded. And as soon as we have the recording ready, you will also get it in our email newsletter so that you can watch it on YouTube and share it with your friends and colleagues. All right, so now without further ado, I am going to turn it over to Laura Wood, who we are thrilled to have as our new executive director. Laura, it's over to you.
Thank you. I'm going to do my own shout out, Charlie, and say hi out loud to Suzanne Tuttle. She's been a friend, fan, and mentor for 20 years. And thank you so much for joining. I am having so much fun seeing where all you guys are hailing here from. And a special shout out to the other Fort Worthians in the group, including the Fort Worth Report. Thank you for being here. And thank you, Ben, for the awesome publicity that Ismail gave us out at the Fort Worth Nature Center, actually. So I just want to thank you, Charlie. I just wanted y'all to get to know who the heck they hired to work with these incredible founders and take us to the next level. So I'm not here to talk all about myself. I want to get to know y'all, but I just wanted to give you a little background. So I've been following xTex on social media pretty much since its beginning. It lined up perfectly for my algorithm on social media in that I follow outdoors conservation, public spaces, hiking, equestrian. Those are the two places that I come from. Not so much the cycling, but we have some incredible cyclers and to fill that. And I joked in the Fort Worth Report article that I feel like I manifested my new position because I have done a lot of freelance fundraising and grant writing, and I had been pining to have xTex as a client just because I wanted to be involved. And then poof, all of a sudden they have this application out or posting out for executive director. And I'll get more into my experience and why I thought, this is the last interview I'm going to have. This is my destiny. And that's because, I'm passionate about public spaces. I grew up in Dallas, got to Fort Worth as soon as I could, as it's required to say over here. And I was one of the lucky ones. My grandparents had a ranch, so I was exposed to the outdoors and hunting and fishing and hiking and all the things, horseback riding. I don't even remember riding a horse. I just I mean, I was a toddler, I guess. And I was, way older before I realized, wait, no, not everybody has a ranch to go to. Where do they go? Right. And state parks are hours away. And anyway, so I've just been a huge advocate for this. And I just feel in Texas, and I talk about it all the time, over 95% of our land is in private hands. It's privately owned, and there's no other state in the country that comes close to that. And so everybody deserves a ranch. Everybody deserves access to the great outdoors, to the mental health benefits, and all the things. So as you can tell, this really sings to my heart. And I'm learning a lot, which I'll segue to that a little bit more. So go ahead, next slide, Melissa. And huge shout out to Melissa, by the way, for driving this. Anyone on this call who's ever done what she's doing knows how nerve-wracking it is. So I'll start with just some of my street cred for those of you who have never heard of me. I am a native Texan, 6 generations. That's a thing. 22 years I've worked in nonprofit consulting at varying levels. I started my career with the Nature Conservancy of Texas and received outstanding training in fundraising and conservation and coalition building and all the things. Was very exciting. So that's where I began as a baby fundraiser. And then after the 2009 recession, I reinstated a family foundation that my dad had started in the 80s, named after my ranching grandmother, Dorothy Marcille Wood. And Suzanne was there from the very, very beginning. She came to my very first debut fundraiser for that. And about 9 years later, we had successfully, in partnership with Oaks and Prairies Joint Venture and Texas Parks and Wildlife and New Mexico Game and Fish and many, many others, I was really proud to be the kind of quarterback to facilitate those partnerships and conversations with landowners. And we ultimately conserved through land use agreements, not in any permanent way, but some really successful win-win land use agreements on 1 million acres across Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, and a little piece of southeast Colorado for prairie chicken habitat and northern bobwhite quail habitat. And it actually moved the needle from them becoming a full-fledged endangered species, which nobody wants on their land. Am I right? So that was exciting. And then I moved on, and I have worked with many, many outstanding nonprofit organizations, too many to list, as a consultant, grant writer, a lot of events, individual fundraising, and I'm shocked and thrilled to say that when I add it all up, it comes to approximately $200 million in charitable giving through all of those diversified channels. So that's my street cred. Super uncomfortable to talk about myself, but wanted you to know who the heck they hired. So on the next slide, the more fun reason that I got involved. Here's my trail cred. That picture on my far right of me sitting in Independence Creek. That's a nature conservancy preserve about a few hours straight south of Midland, pretty much right on the border. And I'm in my early 30s. I had just gotten hired. I'm just sitting splat in the creek. That's a margarita in my hand, just so you know. That's how we roll. And you can see the glow on my face. I was like, I have found my happy place. This is what I'm meant to do, and then 5 years later, the recession hit. And I told Melissa yesterday with tears in my eyes that I have not felt the same exact way that girl felt right there until I got this position. So I am so happy to be here. And then that middle picture is just a little quick. I go to Mexico all the time, and I have a horse that I like to claim, even though he's not mine, named Chocolate. I mean, who doesn't want to ride a horse named Chocolate? And he's the sweetest. He's like in his early 20s now. But that is my other love for the trail. And then last but not least, way earlier in my life, I had the privilege of living in Massachusetts in the far western part of the state. So if you're looking at that map there on the far left of my screen, that's the leg of the Appalachian Trail that goes through the Berkshires. And where those arrows are is where I lived. And gosh, I was really young back then in my 20s. I'm a writer, I'm a journaler, and I was fascinated when I would stumble across these plexiglass boxes nailed to the trees along the trail. And inside were journals of all the travelers, and you'll hear how many for Melissa here in a sec, that had, noted, and then have their giant dogs and they'd come down into town and have amazing stories. And so I fell in love with the trailhead town gateway community concept from living there for 6 years, as well as spending many, 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 many hours on every single one of those little segments of the Massachusetts Appalachian Trail. So that's me in a nutshell. I hope I didn't go over 7 minutes. Of course I did. I'm going to turn it over to Melissa to kind of give us our lunch and learn part of this program. So thanks for listening.
That was fantastic. Thank you. So this is the briefest section, but this is where we get some of the fascinating details that you'll want to know about the trail. So Charlie called me in 2024, June 12th, said, I've got our next big idea. It is a hiking and cycling trail across my home state of Texas, which would be a great place off season because I am in Lake Tahoe and I am up to my knees in snow in many cases. And I almost broke my leg and this is what we got to do. And I was like, okay, well, great. But on one condition, that it can include my first love, which is horses. And we had no idea. We will have another talk, Laura, you and I, we will have another trail talk about horses with Diana, because they have become the surprising ambassador that even Charlie is gobsmacked by how much popularity they're bringing us. So here's some things that I want you to understand. The Appalachian Trail is 2,200 miles across 14 states. The xTex is 1,505 miles across one state. And we don't have this official yet, but we're pretty sure that the xTex is either the second or third longest statewide trail in the country. And just last year, the Appalachian Trail did their first research on how many people participate in their trail every year. They had 16.9 million people. So think about that. Think about the value of having even a fraction of those people come and spend time in the Texas outdoors to the economy. And so let's look at those numbers, because I know this is something Laura knows very well. So Texas had the spending of more than $59 billion in 2024. That's the last research data they have. Fantastic. However, it needs to be noted that it's behind Florida, not by that much, and California, my home state. And both of those have well-established state-long trail systems. So let's think about that for the xTex, what kind of value this can bring to the state and to the local rural economies that become trailhead towns across the trail. So really quick, I want to remind you that both the Appalachian Trail and the xTex were founded by one dreamer. In the case of the Appalachian Trail, it was Benton Mackay. In our case, it was my husband, Charlie Gandy. And they led very small groups of people very quickly within the first 2 years of launching the trails and shared with stakeholders and professionals to get things done quickly as private citizens. The Appalachian Trail was launched before the National Park System, and it was created on mostly public farm roads. And so when people ask, why are we using so much public roadways? The reason is to get it done and moving quickly. And this is how these long distance trails are initially established. And both of them, Charlie will go into this more, shared their vision very quickly with the news media to grow, support, and build momentum. So here's a super brief timeline that I wanted to call your attention to show you how quick this was. July 1921, Benton Mackay is at the Hudson Farm Guild to share with some friends. Then he writes a paper that's in the American Institute of Architects. It gets into the New York Post the following year, and the first section of the trail opens in 1923, and then they have a conference in 1925. So very quickly, you'll see how they put this together. And then look at how fascinatingly it parallels what we're doing with the xTex. Charlie comes up with the idea in June of 2024. In August, I launched the website. of the same year, just a couple of months later. Then in September, he presents at the Bike Texas, Texas Trails and Active Transportation Conference. We get the story in Texas Monthly in 2024, and then in Fox News Online. And things go kaboom, and we start receiving money and support and volunteers and Laura and other great people that come to us and say, I want to help. And so now, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Charlie.
Hey, thanks, Melissa. Thanks, Laura. Y'all make us look pretty good here, don't you? Um, we have this amazing project that you've been introduced to here. My job is to share with you the influence that the Appalachian Trail had on me. And you ought to know, go ahead and move forward, Mel. Um, I've been looking at the Appalachian Trail since I was over here on the left side, 23 years old. I was a boy member of the Texas legislature in 1983. And what you're looking at there is a campaign that we did to get the child safety seat bill passed. Those are doctors and car dealers on either side of me. I learned about doing a campaign then as a member of the legislature and making things happen. Um, I moved on. 10 years later, I was organizing the Texas Bicycle Coalition. That's what that boot with the state seal is about. Uh, our slogan was cyclists aren't just roadkill anymore, and we passed laws that benefit bicyclists in Texas. And so my whole career has been about, then I went into consulting and doing that at the national level. My whole career got to be about being an advocate for active living, bicycling, walking, running, and trail development. I have helped develop trails from California through the Grand Canyon to Austin, Texas to New York City. And as a professional. And so I got to learn in the process a whole lot of stuff. And then I've become retired. Mel, pass that on, or let's go on. I'm 68 years old now. Actually, Sunday, I'll be 68 years old. Um, and I use the Appalachian Trail when I was traveling around the country in my consulting and advocacy professional world to get up to Monson. And in the late 80s, that was there was an old church there that was the hostel there then, Bear Mountain, and stayed in hostels in Pennsylvania and all along the route. I haven't hiked the full AT, but I got to know the concept of a through hike and the magic of an impossibly long distance that you could get lost in. And Bill Bryson and others wrote about it, and I became a fan of the Appalachian Trail. I did move out west and I lived in Colorado, particularly in the summers when I was living in Austin. And so I got into this, unlike most people, climbing mountains in Colorado. I ended up testing out the 14ers and found that to be an exciting thing to do. Ended up climbing them all, and over a 10-year period, the Colorado Trail is one that I've hiked and I've become a student of there. I actually bought a lodge in Twin Lakes. Those of you that know Colorado know that's a spectacular part of the state on Independence Pass, and that's because when I was a kid, we had homesteaded property there. Anyway, um, I moved out west and I started hiking on the California trails, the PCT, and along the coastline. I hiked the entire coastline, and I got to see what trails could look like before they were cut and groomed, and all the trail angels were in place and all the hostels were there. The California coastline is a good example of that. There's other places, other trails that are much younger and much more in development out west, such as the Pacific Northwest Trail or the Arizona Trail, which is, I think, only about 17 years old now. So I went to school on those trails and learned that we could do the same thing in Texas. And so, being a native Texan, I saw the opportunity for us to string a trail through the alligator infested bayous of by the on the Louisiana border, eat chicken fried steak until you get to Lockhart and shift to barbecue, and then live off the land out into the Texas Hill Country and find yourself in the desert out in the Big Bend, and then work your way back up to Marfa and discover that there's a whole nother parallel universe in Marfa, Texas, and then get up to the mountains in Fort Davis and Balmaria Park, and then the Guadalupe Mountains, and ultimately to El Paso. What a ridiculous way to see the state of Texas. And it appealed to me because I had seen the same thing being done out west. And so I have to tell you, let's move forward, Mel. Uh, uh, it has been an amazing opportunity for me to put my skills to work as a professional trail developer, as a community organizer, as a guy who's had some big ideas in the past and been able to act on them. And by the way, we had about when I came up with this idea and we went public in September, I had about six people show up and say, "Hey, Charlie, I had that idea, but I never did anything with it, and I want to help you make it happen." Two of those six are now on our board of directors for the Trail Association: Brandon Jacob in East Texas and Brad Wallace in Bernie. It's brilliant, the skills and the talent and the energy that Melissa and I have been harvesting over the last couple of years. And now with Laura Wood on the team and a board of directors that's in place made up of stakeholders and lawyers and CPAs and people who share the vision of this impossible trail across the state. Uh, we're gonna really after 2 years, and I have to tell you that that's one of the things that I'm most um, proud of, and that is Benton McKay did the same thing. He imagined the route, pulled together stakeholders, and made it happen. All of those state parks and those national parks that the Appalachian Trail goes through now came up after, and with one exception, came up after they had the big idea. And we are going to experience the same thing in Texas. There's going to be some logical connections between state parks, the creating a linear park along this route and others. And we're going to we already are inspiring people in Dallas to talk about doing a trail down to connecting to the xTex, and a network of trails will be developed just as it happened back east and as it happened out west. Very excited to be a part of that. I probably need to take my medication now. Melissa, move forward. Are we done?
Well, I did want you to share, I wanted you to call out that you have been a storyteller in the media from way back. So people might recognize some of these things that you were participating in, including the fact that you founded the Austin Tug of Honor. So I just shared that
Well, I'll
story.
tell you, yeah, those of you that have traveled, you know about youth hostels and the value of that. I stayed in about 200 youth hostels around the world as a wanderer through my life. And so in '86, we were looking to create a youth hostel in Austin. And even then, there were plenty of bicycle rides and 10Ks as fundraisers. And I had an idea, let's stretch a rope across town lake and have a big tug of war, North versus South Austin, Bubba's versus Yuppies. That turned out to be a pretty good idea. And Barnum and Bailey had nothing on us on the tug of war. On the south side, we had beer and barbecue for the Bubbas, and on the north side, we had wine and quiche for the Yuppies. And all the signs were in French. We put on a show in that is still part of what most Austinites think about when you talk about keeping Austin weird. You need to know any more? Oh, and yeah, we got national and international press coverage for that. We learned that if you do something interesting, you do something bold, you do something that is out of the norm, you'll draw attention. And by the way, just to close on that I did get to serve in the legislature. I found the courage to sign up for that at age 22. I had worked for a House member in the legislature, and when I was a college student at UT, getting a political science degree. When he ran for the Senate, I ran for the House, and we both won. Um, I learned then that I think it's Norman Vincent Peale or somebody saying, "Be bold, and the forces of power will come to your aid." And that's exactly what happened with the xTex. We stepped out there and said, "Hey, here's a bold idea. What do you think?" And it has attracted um, time, talent, and treasure from Texans and beyond. And so that tells you you're on the right track when people respond to something like that. That's exactly what's happened here. Now we're in this phase of moving forward where we'll still adjust the trail and work and take a look at opportunities along the route, just as we did with Bandera, and adjust accordingly. And we'll start installing shelters and water stops along the way where they don't exist now. By the way, this is the same thing that the Pony Express did years ago, and that is they said we need to go from here to here. We need to connect the natural water sources and then create water sources in between. And so that's how the Pony Express model with water about every and a new rider about every 25 miles got created. So that's what Benton Mackay did. That's what we're doing, and it's fun to be involved. Oh yeah.
So, final thoughts, Charlie?
Just to close, you brought this photograph brings it up. That photograph on the left is Big Bend. Um, if some people have their way, that won't be accessible anymore because of a fence that will be put up along that route. And so I'm not in the business of politics these days, but just know that our trail is significantly impacted by the potential of a unnecessary fence. Those two people are Pam and Richard Hirschberger. They hiked with me across the state in January, February, and March. They have hiked 19,000 miles since 2010 as retired people. They're beautiful people from Pennsylvania, and they have made an amazing contribution to the trail by hiking with me through that. And that's all I've got. I'm glad that we got to do this.
Okay.
Thank you, Charlie. Well, we want to
Well,
hear from
back to you.
y'all.
Yeah.
I was I was just going to close this out with close out our part with how you guys can build this legacy. Doing my job is the new ED. Volunteers make this happen. Word of mouth, obviously, the power of the media you've seen. Obviously, we need more seed money and any possible thing you want to know more about or want to participate in, that's my email. This QR code takes you to the website where you can see the map. I want to shout out to Far Out, who's really helped us pull off this map and is here today as well. And Jerry has an interesting question about supporting opposition to the fence. That is not our mission. However, we hear you, we feel you. And I'm going to invite Charlie to talk with you kind of more offline about that. It is a
And
very
just know there are petitions to sign
Mhm.
and groups to join that are based in Big Bend. That if you Google Terralingua and Big Bend Wall, you'll find them. And yeah, please make your voice known if it's of interest to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Jerry. Alice has asked us about memberships, and feel free to just also jump in or raise your hand if you want to talk. But we are not quite ready for a trail membership yet. We do have the Friends of the xTexas Trail membership opportunity, and those are folks that give us any amount, $5 even on a monthly basis. So we have a monthly membership giving circle right now that we would love for you to join in. But if you are here, you're part of the family. Joel, I'm gonna punt this question to Charlie. Is the idea to implement the trail a section at a time? Because that is how you're supposed to eat an elephant, right? Or work on the whole thing all at once. And there's been so much enthusiasm from east to
Well,
west. I'm
and
gonna
so
turn
therefore,
that
yes,
over to you,
but
Charlie.
two things have happened. One is I mentioned before, Melissa and I started harvesting the response to this. We have we have people who live along the trail that already are interested in having a shelter built on their property. We have people who want to buy property along the route to become trail angels and critical support with water stations and such. Um, and so, and of course, that's one of the reasons we brought Laura in is to help us manage all that. So right now, what we're doing is responding to where the opportunities, where the laydowns are. An example of that is when we first put the map up 2 years ago out in West Texas. Uh, a woman connected with us. Her name is Penny Ferguson. She owns a huge ranch out just north of Big Bend State Park south of Marfa. Long story short, she is one of our board members now. We'll be creating a shelter on her place she owns a historic piece of property there on Alamitos Creek, and we'll be creating a shelter there. Another example back east with Brandon Jacob, who owns a ranch about right outside Lake Livingston, about 80 miles from the border. Uh, he's interested in a number of things on his property, and I won't get ahead of him. He's walking the Camino now in Europe. The point here is that we've got those kind of people that we're ready to start building facilities on in key locations, and we're soliciting more. Now that we've hiked it, now that we've ridden our bikes on it, now that we've firmed up the route, we're starting to talk to property owners and say, hey, it's 20 miles between here and there. We need a place to do a shelter and water within a mile or so of here. Can we talk to you about that? That's the current conversation.
Thank you for that. So yes, we're largely driven by opportunity since this thing did take a life of take on a life of its own very quickly.
Well, you
So
know what? I can share one other point of view on or perspective on that because it's not a secret. Um, if you're a fan of the trail out west, you know that right now the route goes along the road from Sanderson to Marathon and then takes a sharp cut down into the national park. The state of Texas, the General Land Office now owns about a 400,000 acres in a ranch called the Brewster Ranch uh, that we're exploring with them now the prospect of doing the trail across that property. That would be a very direct and exciting route off every major road, basically from Sanderson down to Persimmon Gap and the entrance to the national park. That takes time because it's a government thing, but that's in the works right now, and we have that kind of conversation going in a couple of different places. Again, just uh, identifying the places we wanted to get to, and then looking at the routes that were available. And just by having the conversation, it opened up that possibility 2 years ago, and we're working on it.
Charlie, are there any plans, thank you, James Bauman, to link up with the trail running companies that are hosting races? This is your wheelhouse right here to bring additional exposure. And of course Bike Texas making
Yes, it is. And some are responding. As I mentioned, we're responding to those who are coming to us. And I have to tell you, the bike community is coming to us and is interested in doing a race across the state that starting basically a grand depart, and the first one from El Paso to Louisiana wins in probably December or January of this year. Short of that, in addition to that, there are groups out around the Lone Star Hiking Trail and elsewhere that organize day trips that are on their trails and trails that we use going through those places, and we'll be developing more of those. And then lastly, the horse community um, is just talking about Bandera again. Bandera has horses as an integral part of their identity. And there's other towns like that. Cold Springs out in East Texas is an example of that, of where that's part of their identity as well. And so they're the ones that are taking the lead on that. So, talking about how trails like this evolve, when locals take the initiative to do something that benefits them, we can come in and show them what other towns like that have done. We can show them with our knowledge and expertise what we see as potential and opportunities for their town to take advantage of that. And we can show them where there's some funding opportunities to fund a lot of the things that we're talking about. So that's the relationship we have going now. And again, people like El Paso, Bandera, uh, or San Marcos, they are stepping up, and we're partnering with them.
Thank you. Um, for those of you excited about merch, in addition to the hat, throw in the chat one or two things that you would love to see, and message me. I've got a bunch of very fun stickers that I can send you. I've already outfitted my water bottle. But that would actually be helpful for us to kind of know what you're interested in. Um,
I
okay.
also want to point out that the map that we have on the wall is courtesy of Far Out. They do a beautiful map, and we are setting up a licensing agreement with them. So stay tuned with what Laura and I can imagine that a map could be on. I just realized that maybe it needs to be a fridge magnet. Like, is that something still people still enjoy? Um, so yeah, put in the chat what you would like to see. And that particular hat, we are looking for a place where we can purchase it larger amounts because it is actually from a store in Bandera that does them right there, but they're not really set up for us to do orders and have them sent off to you. So everybody loves that hat, but we're working on it. So let us know what else you'd like to see.
Nice. Yes, way to represent. Appreciated so much. We have a board member. We've got a Trail Town champion here. Is there anyone else that's been with us that wants to add anything or any other questions? And again, feel free to come off mute and ask away. And we'll be staying on a little past for anyone that didn't get a chance to have their questions answered. And of course, respect y'all's time for those of you who need to go. Yeah, maps are cool. Maps are cool.
Hey, Laura,
Yes.
let me make a pitch to this group to help us broaden our network. If you know somebody that we need to get in touch with, that has the time, talent, or treasure that we need to make our project successful, please make the introduction and let us tell them our story. That's the most helpful thing you could do, I think, in that realm. And we're going to follow up on them. Just quickly then in the fall, uh, we tentatively have an event planned in Dallas that those of you in Dallas will get an invitation to. We'll be doing, Laura
And
and I,
Fort Worth.
what'd you say? Of
And Fort Worth.
course. Yeah, I've heard. That's on the other side of Arlington, right?
Hey,
Uh,
we're different kind.
Uh, anyway, we're going to be working around the state in the fall and doing show and tells in major cities around the state and inviting people to participate in a lot of different ways. So if you have ideas or suggestions for us, please drop us a line.
Great. And we've got some great ideas for merchandise. Thank you, Alice. The cleaner class of fantastic ideas. Lori Walker and Bandera. Diana, if you have your computer set up so that you could send a link to Lori's actual store, if people want to just go ahead and buy a one-off right now, that would be great. Of the hat. Um, Joel is asking about financial status report. What do you want to say about that, Laura?
Great
Related
question.
to the organization,
Yes.
we've raised about 150,000 bucks so far, and we've got uh, and that's because we really didn't need any more than that up to now. But now we're getting into the infrastructure building phase, and we're moving into the $5,000 and $10,000 ask among major contributors. Uh, if a family wants to host, or excuse me, to sponsor a monument, a trail shelter that is honoring a family member or something like that, we can talk to you about that. That's a trail honor tradition on the Appalachian Trail and elsewhere, and we're adopting that strategy as well. Um, and so that's where we are now, and we are a 501(c)(3).
Yes, we are. And in no short order on my list is we have a little bit of an impact report, but we're going to flesh out an impact report, and all of those financials will be available for year end. So that everybody, because we're a brand new 501c. I mean, this was like grassroots.
Less than a year old.
Yes, yes, yes. So, but thank you for that. I appreciate that. That's important. And yes, there's our social media. Well, it's 12:58. Thank y'all for spending your lunch hour with us. And again, keep the questions coming. We're here to is there a link, Diana?
That's the person doing the
Okay. Okay. We'll shoot out a link if we find one. Or we'll keep you posted for sure. So
But we know Charlie actually has been following this in fashion, and he's let me know that this combination of the sage and the Kelly green or hunter green is very much the rage. So we are on the hunt to find out where we can get that for all of you.
and we spend money in towns that are on our trail.
100%. All right. Well, with that, thank you, Alice. Same. Thank you all so very much. And with that, I guess I'll close this out, and y'all have a wonderful rest of your Thursday and a fabulous weekend. Thanks for joining us on the trail.
I will say one final thing here, and that is that if any of you want to connect with each other that you've seen in the chat, that you're intrigued by each other, we're going to leave this open. We're going to go off screen, mute ourselves, but we're going to leave it open for a few more minutes if you guys want to share email addresses or contact information with each other to have your own xTexas Trail Talks.